I've been a little brat my whole life. My brother got into a car accident and messed up his head. So naturally, I went to make things worse. I'm pregnant, and I think it's yours. Out of all my boyfriends, you were the biggest and the best. You have to take responsibility. The color drained from Johnny's face as he stammered. No. No. I deliberately misinterpreted. Can't wait to marry me? I can't live without me? I went to ask Mrs. Miller if there was any risk of Johnny getting his memory back. She gave me a very complicated look. Johnny doesn't have amnesia. He has a concussion. I've been a little monster since I was a kid. My grandpa was in the outhouse doing his business. I locked the door and threw a firecracker into the pit. My aunt was taking a shower. I mixed itching powder into her body lotion. A classmate came over, so I offered him a local specialty. It was half a pound of soybean paste mixed with a full pound of poop. Thank God we live in a civilized society, or I would have been beaten to death a long time ago. But we had a straight-laced guy in the house. Johnny had a speech impediment and was quiet most of the time. But whenever I got into trouble, he'd scold me with a serious face. Don't. If you do it again, I'll deal with you. That just made me furious. I was punishing evil, and I was the one getting yelled at. Talk about picking on the little guy. Just as I was racking my brain for a way to get back at him, Johnny got into a car accident. On my way to the hospital, I heard he'd hit his head. Hit his head? Amnesia? An idea sparked in my mind. I burst through the door of his hospital room. Johnny, lying in the bed, jumped in surprise and stared at me, stunned. My eyes filled with tears as I choked out. Johnny. I'm pregnant. For a moment, it felt like the air had frozen. The nurse paused, needle in hand. A patient's family walking by the door stopped in their tracks. The cleaning lady swept the same spot by the door over and over again. Johnny's face went through a dozen shades of pale. The look he gave me was pure terror. I knelt by his bedside, sobbing my heart out. I'm over 5 months along. It's so uncomfortable I can't sleep through the night. All I dream about is you. I'm working 3 jobs a day, living on bread and pickles, just saving up enough money to buy you that car. Then you'll marry me, right? I've been with you since I was 18, and I spent every penny I earned on you. You can't just toss me aside because you're bored. I can't live without you. Johnny, please, please don't leave me. A few of the older women at the door were quietly wiping away tears. The men's faces turned grim, glaring at Johnny like he was something less than human. Johnny, who had been the picture of decency his whole life, had never experienced anything like this. His face was a mix of confusion and despair. His speech impediment, now amplified by his agitation, made it impossible for him to form a complete sentence. No. No. I grabbed his hand, deliberately twisting his words. Can't wait to marry me? I can't live without me? Johnny looked so desperate he was about to start using sign language. I squeezed his wrist tightly, keeping him from moving an inch. Even with all the eyes on me, my expression didn't change. When it comes to being shameless, nobody beats me. Johnny and I aren't related by blood. The story goes that right after I was born, my parents took off, leaving me at the hospital. When I got hungry, I just snatched the baby bottle from Johnny in the next crib. This went on for days. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were shocked. They didn't get it, but they were too polite to stop me. So, they just meekly started making a little extra formula each time, enough for 2 babies. When the nurses came to check, the couple was bursting with questions but too embarrassed to ask. Finally, on the day they were supposed to be discharged, they were stopped by several nurses as they were about to leave with Johnny. You're just taking your son and leaving your daughter behind? What's the difference between a boy and a girl? We're so tired of old-fashioned people like you. One comment after another left them red-faced and mortified. In a fit of pique, Mr. and Mrs. Miller ended up taking me home with them too. The Millers are all good, honest people. An overthinking dad. An insecure mom. A quiet brother, and a shameless me. They say opposites attract, and there's some truth to that. Mr. Miller was constantly brainwashed by his father. Grandpa had 2 sons, with Mr. Miller being the older one. He also had a younger son, now in his 40s, who was a complete failure. Because Mr. Miller was doing well, Grandpa was always on his case. You can always have more sons, you can always remarry, but your father and brother are your only true family. You should spend your money on family, help your brother out more. Mr. Miller was furious but didn't dare say anything. It was Grandpa who had been biased, wanting to leave his small plot of land entirely to his younger son. He'd kicked Mr. Miller out of the house early on. Penniless, Mr. Miller struck out on his own and built his success from scratch, leading to the comfortable life he has now. Every trip back home was a lecture from Grandpa. Until I came along. When Grandpa was in the outhouse, I locked the door and tossed firecrackers into the pit. The bang, bang, bang was loud enough to blow the roof off, and Grandpa's blood-curdling screams echoed from inside. He was so mad his lips turned purple, and he could barely stand. The sight of me made his teeth grind with hatred. After that, Grandpa never asked Mr. Miller to come home again. Mrs. Miller has a large red birthmark on her neck. Her younger sister had teased her about it since they were kids. Until I showed up. I mixed itching powder into her sister's body lotion. The itching made her shower, and showering made it worse. Dermatologists couldn't figure it out. When the truth came out, Mrs. Miller's sister kicked me out of her house, threatening to kill me if she ever saw me again. From that day on, her sister never contacted her again. My reputation was ruined, but life got a lot better. That night, a big chicken leg appeared in my bowl. Johnny has a speech impediment. The new transfer student in his class was a troublemaker who always tried to pick on him. One time, he followed Johnny home, acting all high and mighty. I was downstairs watching TV in my cute pink dress. The transfer student, a kid named Lee, crossed his legs and barked at me. "Hey, mute sister, you know how to make tea?" I trotted over, looked up at him with an innocent expression. "Big brother, I don't know how to make tea, but I have other yummy things." I brought out a jar of soybean paste. Inside the half-pound of paste, I had mixed a full pound of dog crap. The moment Lee opened the jar, I jumped up, grabbed his head, and shoved his face into it. Lee let out a piercing shriek. Johnny stood nearby, stunned, as if seeing the dark side of the world for the first time. That day, I literally made a 6'3" jock cry. Maybe I did go a little too far. Johnny's expression was very serious. "Don't see him again. If you do it again, I'll deal with you." It was the first time Johnny had ever been harsh with me. I felt wronged and angry. But luckily, I got my chance for revenge. An old lady at the hospital room door couldn't stand it anymore and tried to help me up. "Dear, you're not well. You should rest." I shook my head, crying. "No, Grandma, my boyfriend was on his way to a blind date when he got into a car accident. I just managed to scrape together the money for his medical bills." Johnny lay silently in his bed, looking like he'd been dead for a while. People in the hospital gossiped about Johnny all afternoon. The kind grandma who helped me was especially furious. She asked me to come sit in her room. After I went, however, she left. A little while later, I heard a commotion outside the room. The boy talking to the grandma sounded young, and vaguely familiar. "Grandma, you're so desperate for a great-grandson you've lost your mind. You don't even care if it's family? You want me to take on any mess?" The grandma pleaded earnestly. "That girl is a good girl. She just fell for the wrong guy." The boy grew more impatient. "Let's just drop it. I'm not getting into a relationship, and I'm definitely not raising someone else's kid. I get the shakes just looking at a girl these days." The two of them walked into the room. When I saw the boy next to the grandma, I froze. When Lee saw me, his expression became complicated. The atmosphere was silent for a moment, then he suddenly smiled, his eyes full of malice. He slowly turned to his white-haired grandmother. "I'll take this one." It was incredibly awkward seeing my old enemy. The grandma, completely oblivious, was still tugging on Lee's arm, introducing him to me. "This is my grandson. He's the only one in the family, rich, and handsome too. Much better than that deadbeat who abandoned his family." She waved at me cheerfully. "I'm just heading downstairs for a bit. You two get to know each other." And with that, she left. It was just me and Lee in the room. The way Lee looked at me, you'd think he wanted to eat me alive. Lee and I went to the same school, and our families didn't live far apart, so I'd heard a lot about him. Apparently, after that last incident, he'd taken a long leave of absence. He said he was scared of girls and his family almost sent him to a therapist. Grandma had clearly told Lee the whole story. He was now looking at me with great interest. 5 months pregnant, working 3 jobs, scrimping and saving to buy your boyfriend a car, only to have him cheat on you with a blind date and get into a car accident. "Jane, you and your brother really know how to play games, huh?" He slowly leaned in closer. I could even feel his warm breath. There was a knock on the door. I snapped back to reality and turned to see Johnny standing at the doorway. Johnny silently watched me, practically pressed up against Lee. He stammered out, "Jane, let's go home." I was on edge all afternoon. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were both busy lately and couldn't get away. I puffed out my chest and took on the full responsibility of caring for Johnny. With them out of the picture, I could bully Johnny to my heart's content. He had amnesia, he was putty in my hands. I spent the afternoon lording it over him. The patient sat in a chair getting in 4, while I lay in the bed, nurturing the baby. I didn't even have to spit out my own pomegranate seeds. People walking by the room would point and whisper about how pitiful I was. I was savoring every second of this sweet life. But now, the script was going off the rails. I heard that after Lee's grandma left his room, she came right over to Johnny's to talk loudly. She said her grandson was tall and handsome, 1,000 times better than some people, and that Lee and I had already hit it off. Soon, I'd get rid of the baby and start a new life. Johnny cried under his covers for a long time before going from room to room looking for me. With his amnesia, Johnny didn't know anything. But that jerk Lee knew exactly what our relationship was. If he explained things to Johnny, it would be like a public slap in the face for me. I was so anxious I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Come upstairs. Need to talk." It didn't take a genius to know it was Lee. I had no idea how he got my number. Lee immediately sent another message. "Or I can come downstairs and catch up with your brother." My vision went black with anger. Just as I was about to get out of bed to find Lee, a hand landed on my waist, pressing me down firmly. Don't go." There was only one bed in the room. Johnny and I were squeezed in together. I thought he was already asleep. I felt a pang of guilt. "I'm just getting up to go to the bathroom, really." Johnny stared at my phone without a word, as if he'd already seen through everything. His hand moved slowly down, resting on my lower abdomen. As if he was trying to feel something. His palm was scorching hot, making me tremble all over. 5 months. Is dangerous. Don't go see him. His hand moved lower, his fingers gripping my knee. His messy hair brushed against the soft skin of my thigh. I bit my lip hard, afraid to make a sound. Johnny's voice was muffled. "I'll help you. Won't hurt you." Just then, there was a knock on the door. Lee's voice came from outside. "Jane." He stood outside calling my name. I jolted back to my senses, my mind filled with the messages on my phone. Lee's voice felt like a hammer blow to my heart. Johnny's movement stopped. He turned to look at the shadowy figure at the door. On impulse, I wrapped my arms around Johnny's shoulders and pushed him down beneath me. I covered his ears. No distractions. On my phone beside the pillow, a stream of missed calls from Lee popped up, one after another. Lee knocked for a while, but when the door didn't open, he gave up. His footsteps faded away. Johnny, however, showed no signs of stopping. My mind was a complete mess. I'm screwed. I've really gone too far this time. I couldn't even imagine how I would explain this when Johnny got his memory back. Johnny and I grew up together, but he always hated me. Our personalities were complete opposites. I was a chatterbox as a kid. I could entertain myself for a whole day just talking to myself in a corner. Johnny was a man of few words, with a speech impediment. The Millers went to great lengths to help him. They even spoke to his teachers at school, explaining his situation beforehand. The teacher was confused. Johnny is a bit quiet, but when it comes to reading texts or memorizing vocabulary, he's just like any other kid. The teacher sent a video of Johnny reciting a lesson. His pronunciation was perfect, his reading fluent. The Millers fell silent. But when Johnny came home that evening, he was the same as always. A completely different person from the boy at school. In the end, they called a doctor to the house. I tagged along behind Johnny, wanting to see what was going on. Johnny stood in the doorway, blocking me. Don't. Loud. Not a single extra word. He shut the door right in my face. That night, I was so anxious I climbed out the window to find the doctor and ask what was wrong with Johnny. He's fine at school, so why can't he speak in complete sentences with me? He's so fun when he's talkative. The doctor was silent for a long time, looking conflicted. Finally, he tactfully asked me. When you walk past a public restroom, do you feel an urge to start a conversation? I burst into tears. Was I that repulsive to Johnny? After that, I learned my lesson and stopped pestering him. Our relationship has been distant ever since. But after tonight, everything has changed. Help me. I kind of want to run away from home. When I opened my eyes the next day, Johnny was already awake. He was leaning against the headboard, looking down at me. His narrow eyes were devoid of any emotion. I knew that look all too well. For all those years, that's how Johnny had always looked at me. I jolted, terrified that Johnny had remembered everything. Johnny spoke slowly. Before. Were we close? My expression froze. I stared at him blankly, unable to say a word. 1,000 scenarios flashed through my mind. Did Johnny get his memory back? Was last night so awkward that he got suspicious? Did that jerk Lee come by while I was sleeping and run his mouth? The room fell into a strange silence. The ringing of a phone snapped me back to reality. It was Mrs. Miller. Johnny saw the caller ID and reached for the phone. If you won't tell me, I'll ask my parents. I snatched the phone away, blurting out defensively. We were super close. Couldn't stand to be apart for a single day, always all over each other. Everyone said we were a match made in heaven. Johnny just stared at me. I couldn't tell if he believed me or not. He asked, "You like me?" I nodded like a bobblehead. Yes. When did you start liking me? Johnny's speech was completely smooth this time. The rapid-fire questions almost made me blurt out the truth. The honest words were on the tip of my tongue, but I forced them back. Just a little while ago, I started liking you. I didn't dare look him in the eye. I lied. The truth is, I've had a crush on Johnny for years. I can't even remember exactly when it started. When I was little, a few relatives thought I was a burden. While the adults were out, they took me to a remote ravine and abandoned me. A kid her own parents didn't want can't be any good, they said as they jumped in their car and drove off. I spent 2 days in the mountains, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, unable to find my way home. Later, it was Johnny who found me. He was covered in scratches, his clothes torn to shreds. He carried me on his back, following the trail of markers he'd left to lead us out. I asked him, "How did you find me?" Johnny's voice was hoarse, as if he'd been walking for a very long time. "I heard you crying. That mountain was huge, even adults were afraid to go in." Johnny had come all by himself, secretly. Clinging to Johnny's back, I couldn't stop crying. He always protected me like that. When Grandpa was so angry he wanted to kill me, Johnny stood in front of me. When his mom found out I'd done something wrong, he took the blame for me. I couldn't not like him. Terrified Johnny would see through me, I turned away and answered the phone. Mrs. Miller's voice came through, asking how Johnny was recovering. "Taking care of a patient is exhausting," she said. "I'll just hire a caregiver for Johnny. You can just visit him once in a while." My temples throbbed. I quickly refused. I wouldn't feel right having a stranger take care of him. "I'll do it myself." If a caregiver came and heard all the gossip from the past few days, and then reported back to Mrs. Miller, I could really start packing my bags to run away. But Mrs. Miller was firm. "No, you're a young woman. You have to come home at night. You can't stay there to take care of Johnny. I'm hiring a caregiver." Negotiations failed, so I had to back down and come up with a lie. "Well, I'll find someone then. I know a really meticulous caregiver I can trust." Mrs. Miller finally agreed, told me to come home early, and hung up. I breathed a sigh of relief. The moment the call ended, my screen filled with threatening texts. Not opening the door for Lee last night had clearly pissed him off. As I was racking my brain for a way to pacify him, there was a knock on the door. I looked up to see Lee standing there with breakfast. He shot me a wicked grin. "Hey, baby mama, time to eat." I was speechless. Lee set the food on the table. Breakfast for 3. His and Johnny's were normal shrimp dumplings and congee. Mine, however, was a chicken soup with a lethal dose of goji berries and red dates. I stared at him blankly. Lee ladled some soup for me, even blowing on it before bringing it to my lips. "Pregnancy is tough. When I went with you for your checkup, the doctor said you were anemic and needed to build up your strength." Then, he affectionately pinched my cheek. "Just a few more months. After the baby's born, you won't have to suffer anymore. I'll take you and the little one on a trip abroad." I forced a smile and looked at him like he was a complete idiot. "Are you having another one of your episodes?" Lee's expression didn't change. He kept up his gentle act. His wolf-cut hairstyle was freshly styled, and he was wearing a leather jacket. He looked like a total punk, every move radiating a bad boy vibe. Trying to play the doting husband now was just bizarre. Lee was deep in character, rambling like a lunatic. "I told you I'd marry you and take responsibility. Even if you're impatient, Jane, you can't let your ex-hubby be the fall guy." Johnny kept his head down, chewing silently. Lee seemed to be enjoying himself. He turned to Johnny and said, "When Jane and I get married, we'll have the ex-hubby sit at the head table." Johnny stopped chewing. He stared at Lee. "The baby isn't yours." Lee was unfazed. 5 months ago, Jane and I were dating. But you have amnesia, so it's normal you don't remember. If you don't believe me, take Jane for a paternity test and see whose kid it is. If looks could kill, Lee would be dead 800 times over. The wolf was visiting the sheep, and he wasn't here to be friendly. I knew that breakfast he brought wasn't going to be easy to eat. I grabbed Lee and dragged him outside. "How can you be so vicious?" I demanded, my voice full of anger. Lee looked stunned, like he'd been deeply wronged, his eyes turning red. "I didn't even put dog crap in your chicken soup. Compared to you, I'm practically a saint." His words made me feel guilty. I smacked my lips. There was no weird taste in my mouth. I sheepishly looked away. "That was only because you were bullying Johnny." Lee looked like his world had just collapsed. "He's the one who's always been bullying me." Lee's voice was filled with anguish. "Did you ever get the love letters I sent you?" I asked Johnny to give them to you, but you never replied. So I just kept writing them every day. My mom thought I was collaborating with a publisher on a book. Later I found out that Snake erased your name and gave the letters to our old professor. Lee completely broke down, as if reliving a dark, traumatic time. Do you have any idea what that semester was like for me? I was treated like a creep and almost forced to drop out. I pressed my lips together tightly, running through every sad memory I had just to keep from laughing out loud. Lee's grievances poured out like a flood. He wiped away a tear and sobbed, "I'm usually a forgiving person. That's not the reason I started targeting him. It's because I saw him with your hair tie, Ja. Family of Johnny Miller, he's cleared for discharge." A nurse cut Lee off mid-sentence. Johnny came out of the room, staring daggers at Lee with a chilling look in his eyes. It was just for a second, then Johnny looked away. He took my hand. "Taking you for a checkup." I was already on edge about the whole thing. I quickly grabbed Johnny and headed for the discharge office. "No checkup needed, I'm perfectly fine. Let's just go home." I didn't have time to hear the rest of what Lee had to say. All I wanted right now was to get out of this cursed place. I left the hospital with Johnny. "Where's home?" Johnny asked. My hand on the steering wheel froze. I thought of the Miller's quiet villa. We usually lived there, but the house was full of evidence of a family of 4. After thinking for a moment, I decided to go to Johnny's apartment near the university. Johnny's apartment was huge. He usually lived there alone. After class, the Miller's driver would always pick me up to go back to their house. I'd asked Mrs. Miller why Johnny didn't live at home. Her answers were always vague. Boys need to be independent when they grow up. Since she said that, I didn't press the issue. This was my first time in Johnny's apartment. Johnny had already changed into loungewear like it was second nature. Seeing me still standing by the door, he asked, "Aren't you going to change?" I looked at the closet full of men's clothes and couldn't get a word out. Johnny pulled out a thin, white pajama set. "This must be yours, right?" I reluctantly took it. Looking at the size, which was 2 sizes too big for me, I fell into a deep thought. The top hung past my butt, and the pants were way too long. I looked like a kid playing dress-up in adult clothes. Nothing fit right. The pajamas were made of a soft, flowing fabric that clung to my body. Johnny reached out and placed his hand on my flat stomach, murmuring to himself. 5 months. This shouldn't be. His palm was hot, and I could feel its warmth even through the fabric. He said, "Jane, let's go for that checkup." At 5 months, I should have been showing. But the only thing my belly was showing was hot pot, boba tea, and spicy noodles. Johnny was serious. He grabbed his car keys and a jacket, insistent on taking me downstairs. Finally, I made a snap decision. I grabbed his hand and slowly guided it downwards. "I don't want to go to the hospital for a checkup. Let my husband check himself." Johnny's examination was thorough. I was in his arms, my nails leaving red marks on his back. After a whole afternoon of this, he finally dropped the subject of taking me for a checkup. Curled up in his bed, I could faintly smell his scent. I had only meant to tease him a little, but things were getting way out of hand. I had won his affection through lies. I dreaded to think how angry he would be when he got his memory back. I hid under the covers and quietly wiped away a tear. Johnny got up, got dressed, and gently stroked my hair. "Hungry?" he asked. I nodded. "Okay," Johnny said. "I'll go get us some dinner. Wait for me." And with that, he was out the door. I scrambled out of bed, changed my clothes, grabbed my car keys, and headed downstairs. After thinking it over, running away for a while seemed like the safest bet. I didn't know when Johnny's memory would return. If I wasn't around, he couldn't take his anger out on me. I'd come back when he had cooled down. My mind made up, I left the apartment alone. The moment I got in the car, I got a message from Lee. He sent a photo. In it, Johnny was wearing a black trench coat, standing in a small wonton shop. Lee's message was dripping with malice. Guess who I ran into? Too bad we didn't get to talk properly this morning. I felt a wave of panic. I quickly messaged him back, swallowing my pride. Lee, my bad. I'm sorry. I was being impulsive before. I'm really sorry. Please stop messing with me. Are you trying to tear this family apart? He didn't reply, leaving me to stew in my anxiety. I looked closer at the photo and noticed the shop's name in the corner. I recognized it was a place near the apartment building. Not far, just a 2-minute drive. I sped over. When I got there, Johnny was still in the shop. 2 bowls of wontons had just been served. The shop was empty except for him. Still shaken, I looked outside. Where's Lee? Is he gone? Johnny shook his head, looking a bit confused. I didn't see him. I let out a sigh of relief and slumped into a seat, a mix of fear and relief washing over me. Johnny brought over the wontons and handed me a spoon. What are you doing here? I looked embarrassed, silently pulling out my phone and canceling the flight I had just booked. I was hungry, so I thought I'd come downstairs to grab something. Just happened to run into you. I shot a furious text to Lee, calling him a psycho. Just as I sent it, the phone in Johnny's pocket rang. I froze. Johnny took out his phone and glanced at it. It's Mom. She's coming back tomorrow. The wontons in my mouth lost all their flavor. Oh, I mumbled listlessly. Back at the apartment that night, I tirelessly pestered Johnny for another checkup. Johnny refused. You'll get hurt. I argued irrationally. It's been 5 months, it's fine. When Johnny still wouldn't give in, I got so frustrated tears started to well up. Fine, I'll go find Lee. At those words, Johnny's expression changed. He grabbed my arm. Don't you dare. In the moonlight, I gazed at Johnny's face, trying to burn his image into my memory. We were up very late. After Johnny fell asleep, I tiptoed out of bed. I was so tired my head was spinning. Mistaking the apartment for the Miller's villa, I thought my own room was just across the hall. I fumbled for the drawer, intending to grab my wallet and documents. Instead, my hand closed around a handful of small trinkets. The fuzzy texture in my palm shocked me awake. The drawer was full of familiar things. An accessory that had fallen off one of my childhood dresses. A hair tie I'd gotten tired of wearing. A love song I had scribbled down, a pen I had used up. And a lot of secret photos of me, taken from different angles. Some were from years ago, some were recent. All this junk, kept together in one drawer. To call it a coincidence seemed far too weak an explanation. I stood there stunned for a long time before taking out my phone. As if possessed, I sent a message to Lee. What was the second half of that sentence you never finished at the hospital? It was late, I didn't expect him to be awake. But the next second, the door behind me opened. Johnny stood in the doorway, phone in hand. The screen showed the message I had just sent to Lee. The Lee on my phone replied. And at the same time, Johnny, standing behind me, spoke. I saw Johnny kissing your hair tie. I saw Johnny kissing your hair tie. Johnny came to my side and gently wiped the tears from my eyes. Why are you crying? Why were you leaving? Do you think I'm disgusting? I shook my head, staring at him in shock. A bold thought began to form in my mind. Does Johnny like me? I sometimes wonder if I'm really someone worth loving. If I was, why did my birth parents abandon me? Why did the Miller's relatives leave me so far away? I can't figure it out, I don't understand. Only I know that everything I do is just a bluff. So what if you hate me? I don't need your approval. I just need to protect the people who are important to me. I can afford to offend anyone. But late at night, I start to regret it, to hate myself. Looking at the phone in Johnny's hand, a strange warmth spread through my chest. I gathered my courage and stammered, "Johnny, I like you." I bit my lip, struggling to ask, "What about you? Do you like me?" Those last 3 words felt impossibly heavy. I couldn't even say them out loud. Johnny reached out and pulled me into his arms. "If I didn't like you, why would I kiss you? Jane, I like you. I've liked you for many years." Mrs. and Mr. Miller came home the next day. I awkwardly followed behind Johnny. Without any hesitation, Johnny took my hand right in front of his mother. "Mom, I won Jane over." I stared at Johnny in shock, not expecting him to confess to his family so quickly. Mrs. Miller's face turned incredibly grim. My heart pounded with fear. She picked up a ruler and smacked Johnny with it. "You little brat, taking advantage while your dad and I are away." It all happened so fast. I thought she was going to hit me. Even though I didn't understand what was happening, I instinctively stepped in to block it. "Mrs. Miller, I'm the one who pursued Johnny." Mrs. Miller didn't believe me at all. She opened her mouth to speak several times, looking like she had a million things to say but couldn't. Mr. Miller gently pulled her back, stopping her from questioning further. He then secretly gave Johnny a thumbs up. Their reaction was as if this wasn't a surprise at all. I scratched my head, confused. That night, I quietly asked Johnny, "When did you start liking me?" He shook his head, refusing to say. I tried again, "So when did you get your memory back?" Johnny gave me a complicated look, the kind you give someone who's not all there. "Who told you a head injury automatically means amnesia?" From the very beginning, all I had was a mild concussion. I was speechless. Epilogue. Johnny's perspective. After Jane and I got together, I mailed Lee his SIM card back. I never expected that sucker to be so useful. I'd seen the harassing texts he was sending Jane, but I couldn't be bothered to deal with it. Let him write. The guy always did like writing essays. 3 love letters a day, asking me to pass them on to Jane. Hilarious. I just changed the name on all of them and gave them to our middle-aged, happily married male professor. A professor who also happened to be Lee's uncle. The professor gave the letters to Lee's father. Lee's father flew into a rage, beat Lee black and blue, and broke 2 rulers in the process. The next day at school, Lee looked like he wanted to tear me apart. "I told you to give the letters to your sister, and you gave them to my uncle?" I feigned innocence. "Sorry, my memory's not so good." Lee was furious. "I'm coming to your house to talk to your sister." I nodded. "Sure, but she won't be home tonight. You'll have to come tomorrow." And he, like a fool, believed me again. That evening, I made sure to come home covered in scrapes and bruises. Jane immediately asked what happened. I lowered my head and said, "I got beat up. I don't really have a speech impediment. I only have trouble speaking when I'm around Jane. Whenever I'm near her, I get so flustered that talking becomes difficult. The doctor said it can happen when you're around someone you have an extreme crush on. You're so afraid of being disliked that you become overly cautious about everything." My family all knew I liked Jane. My mom was constantly on guard, watching me like a hawk, afraid I'd make a move on Jane. But Jane had no idea. She'd just cluelessly hang around me. Hearing that I'd been bullied, Jane asked angrily, "Who did it?" I lied without blinking. "The transfer student, Lee." When Lee came over the next day, Jane took care of him. First beaten up by his own father, then humiliated by his crush. That day, the 6'3" big shot ran home crying. Lee might be dumb, but he's not a complete idiot. Figuring something was up, he came to confront me again. "Did you say something to Jane?" "Johnny, why do you always have to get in the way?" Tired of his whining, I took out a hair tie Jane had recently thrown away and kissed it lightly. "Because I like her." Lee was devastated, and his shame turned to anger. On my way home, he hit me with his car. I reacted quickly and dodged, ending up with just a mild concussion. When I was in the hospital, Jane came to visit. My family had been vague, just saying I'd hurt my head. The silly girl had read too many novels and assumed a head injury meant amnesia. Since she thought so, of course I had to play along. I took the opportunity to do all the things I'd always wanted to do. That idiot Lee even had the nerve to show up the next day. He and Jane went outside to talk, leaving his phone in the room. I took his SIM card and then told the doctor I wanted to be discharged. I grabbed Jane and we made a run for it, leaving Lee to fume in our wake. Lee's SIM card really came in handy. I checked the security cameras at home and saw Jane sneaking around, trying to run away. Posing as Lee, I lured her back with a single photo. Before, I never dared to confess. Jane is like a little sun. Would she ever like someone as manipulative and dark as me? I didn't dare to think about it. But when Jane was playing her prank, she called me her husband. She would kiss me, hug me. I thought to myself, would you do these things if you hated someone? Could it be that Jane likes me too? I summoned my courage and took that step. Thankfully, I was met with the love of the person I adore. The gaze of the one you love gives you courage. My speech is no longer halting. On our wedding day, holding Jane's hand, I recited my vows, word for word. Oh, right. Lee didn't give a single dollar as a wedding gift, but I still had him sit at the head table. I even had the chef prepare a special dish for him, his favorite soybean paste. Lee's epilogue. I've never gotten along with Johnny. That guy has the face of an angel but the heart of a devil. He's rotten to the core. He always found ways to mess with me. I knew it was because I liked his sister. I was so into Jane back then, writing her 3 love letters a day. But I never got a single response. I couldn't figure it out. I was handsome and rich. It wasn't until later that I found out my uncle had received a stack of love letters, all signed by me. My uncle gave the letters to my dad. That day, my dad beat me so bad I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. That's when it hit me. Does Johnny like Jane? I went and asked him if he had a thing for his own sister. I still remember his nonchalant expression. He was holding a hair tie Jane had thrown away, treating it like a priceless treasure. Yes, he answered. I like her. He admitted it. Johnny was in love with his own sister. What kind of sicko was this? I was furious and wanted to teach this pervert a lesson. The next day, I hit him with my car. I got out, ready to punch him a few more times. But Johnny scrambled up from the ground and ran faster than a rabbit. I was like, what? I couldn't make sense of it. Then I got a call from home saying my grandpa was in the hospital. My grandpa and Johnny's perverted grandpa were good friends. Apparently, he was in the outhouse when some kid threw a firecracker in and blew it up. I rushed to the hospital, only to find out that Johnny was a patient there too. The moment my grandma saw me, she started yelling, "Lee, you brat, how could you do that to that poor girl? If it weren't for you, she wouldn't be in this situation." I was completely lost. Grandma dragged me to meet the girl, and it was Jane. Jane was pregnant. And it was my baby. I was even more confused. When did Jane and I even get together? I'd never even held her hand. I had a crush on Jane, sure, but I'm not the kind of guy who'd shirk responsibility. Grandma kept pushing me to step up. I was going to refuse. But then I saw Johnny's face, and I changed my mind. I'll do it. I looked at Jane and smiled brightly. I didn't know whose baby it was, but I knew one thing for sure, it couldn't be Johnny's. No matter how twisted Johnny was, there was no way he'd sleep with his own sister. I was about to clear things up with Jane, but Johnny was discharged. My phone was stolen at some point, so I couldn't even make a call. The next time I saw Jane, she was Johnny's wife. I didn't get it. Isn't Johnny her brother? I rushed to the wedding and finally heard from someone else. They're not related. Oh, for fuck's sake. I ate 10 bowls of soybean paste at the wedding and cried my eyes out. Johnny, you're such a psycho. You're in love with my wife. You just wait. I'll win her back one day.